Hello and welcome to this edition of City Hall Insider. I'm Jim Marshall of the New Bedford Cable Network, and in studio, first time he's doing the show, we dragged him out of the City Clerk's office, Dennis Farias, our City Clerk here in New Bedford, joining us. He's also Clerk of the City Council, but today we're focusing on City Clerk. It's probably the one department I think that everybody in the city has to go to at one point or another. So thanks for coming in, thanks for doing this.
Well, thanks for having me, Jim. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Dennis said he hasn't been in here since for like 20 years in the studio, so it's good to drag him out.
Yeah.
I tell you what, I mean, I say that kiddingly that your office is the one office everybody has to go to, but it's true.
It is true.
Everybody goes to your office for something.
Yeah. And part of it is, I mean, I think if I don't know where to go in City Hall or city government, the City Clerk's office is right there, let me go. We're on the first floor, we're easily accessible, so it makes sense to come on into our office and ask a question. And our staff is great. Our staff, I would certainly put our staff up against any staff in private sector or public sector. They're professional, they're courteous, they want to help people, they come to work every day with a smile on their face, and they give people their best. And I think when people come into our office, they're welcomed, they're greeted professionally, and they're helped. If you ask us a question that maybe, well, that's not something we do, but you know what, we'll give you where to go for it. If it's outside of city government, oftentimes we'll Google a phone number or the address for you, and people always walk away satisfied from our office, I think.
I'm curious to see, because, I mean, there are town clerks, city clerks all over the city. Are they different? Is each community, is their clerk office different, or are they pretty much all the same with all the basic functions?
The basic functions are there. Things like vital records, which are marriage, birth, death records, things like that. That's all there in the clerk's office, whether it's town or city. The biggest difference between town and city clerks is really most town clerks are elected officials, whereas I'm appointed by the city council. I'm the only department head that doesn't necessarily work directly for the mayor. We obviously work with the mayor's office, but I'm appointed by the council, and town clerks are elected.
Is there a reason for that?
It's been that way since the Constitution of the state was drawn up. They just did it this way. And then each town and city had to decide what they want to do in their own charter as well. But yeah, we've always been elected, and in the city of New Bedford, I don't handle elections. Some city clerks do, almost all town clerks do, but in my capacity, we have, as you know, Jim, we have a separate office. Thank God it takes care of elections, because that's a big job.
How has, before we get into details, because there's so much to talk about, for an overview, how much has your office changed? I mean, you've been there for 10 or so years now, but a lot has changed. I mean, you were a counselor. I mean, it's just different from what you've seen in your life here to what you're doing now.
I think our office has changed a lot. In a way, the city clerk's office has to, in many ways, stay the same, because the records that we have to handle, we're the keeper of the records in the city of New Bedford, as you know. We keep not only our own records, but court cases and city council matters and ordinances and everything. We keep everything forever by state law. So, and it sounds funny to say it that way, but it's not even a joke.
So you're the pack rat for City Hall.
Unfortunately, and that kind of goes against my personality, because I'm the kind of guy, hey, if I haven't touched this in 3 months and I don't need it and I want to throw it away, unfortunately, in my professional capacity, we have to find a way to keep it, maintain it properly, and have everything organized and easily accessible for public access. So in a lot of ways, our job hasn't changed, but in the way we do the job has certainly changed over time. Our archives have been updated in the last 10 years. We brought in a consulting firm to kind of organize it for us. I remember my first day on the job, I came in and I spoke with Stephanie, our longtime assistant city clerk, and it's funny because she and I went to high school together, so we've known each other for a long time. And of course, over the years, we've touched base and things. So I said, Stephanie, what's the biggest problem we have here? And she says, I don't want to tell you. I said, no, really, what is it? So we went down to the vault, which is where we keep our archives. And just over the years and the decades of just trying to cram things in and find space for things, it got very unorganized. So we were fortunate to find a partner that came in, and they have this great system. They do it for cities and towns all over New England, all over the eastern seaboard, really. They go in, and they just organize your archives for you, make it easily accessible. So if you came in today and say, hey, I need this record from 1845, I can find it for you in 2 minutes. And that's really been a tremendous help. So the customers might not see that, the public might not realize that, but behind the scenes, it helps us, those types of changes help us do our job much more effectively for the public.
You have records, you were telling me off camera, that go back to the 1700s.
Yeah, 1787 is our
that
oldest
is just
records.
amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at that stuff, you must be like, wow.
It is very cool. And I'm a history, I was a history major in school, so I like that stuff. But it's so amazing to see just, almost in a way, how much life has changed and how little life has changed. People are born, people are married, people pass away, unfortunately. Things change. And our record, and our office kind of has in a lot of ways the political, but also the personal history of the city.
Yeah. I was just going to say, you are basically the history of the city.
Yeah, we see families coming and going, addresses, new streets being put in. We have all those records are in our office.
I can't imagine, I know you've got the firm dealing with it, but I can't imagine how long it takes, because as you said, you're putting this stuff on microfilm.
A lot of it we are.
How long is that process, because you've got so many records?
Yeah, we've actually been in the process now of, well, first, a lot of our records are vital records by state law, which are birth, marriage, and death. We have to, no matter what, we have to keep them in original paper form. That's just the law. The state also backs them up, but we have them in our vault. And believe it or not, even going back to the 1700s, they're in good shape. So
I was asking you, I mean, what is
we take special care to make sure they're maintained with temperatures in the room and everything like that. But we also want to make sure that we're doing our due diligence in making sure that these records are preserved. And so what we're doing now, we got some money from the community preservation funds to go ahead and microfilm some of these things as a backup. And that's been tremendous for us. We've probably, between some vital records and also some city council meeting records that we've had, we've probably microfilmed about close to 100 years of different things, of history, now in the last 3 years.
Wow.
So it takes time. Really, the company that's doing it for us, the time that it takes for the most part is to prepare the record. Because these are old documents, you have to be careful with them. Sometimes they're stapled, sometimes they're folded. They have to, all that handling of the documents takes time.
Right.
But it's been tremendously worth it. It's a great value for the taxpayer and for the city as well.
It's an ongoing process too, I'd imagine.
It is. It is, absolutely. And it'll probably be a process that will go on and on for forever now. Because new records are being produced every day.
Right.
So today's records are new today, but 100 years from now, when the new city clerk, he'll be hopefully doing something as well to maintain those records.
How has technology helped, or has it made it, in some cases, has it made it tougher for you guys to do your job?
Technology has helped, absolutely. It has helped. A lot of times, because of the nature of our office, I feel like sometimes we're behind in technology.
Really?
But there are things that we can't always just adapt. People say, well, why can't you just digitize that? Or why can't you get rid of these records and keep them all on the computer? Because it's against the law. Things like that. And so.
And I don't think people, I don't think people realize that you do have rules and regulations set by the state.
Correct.
That you have to follow. So
Yes.
it's not just, the city doesn't have I don't want to say the city doesn't have a say, but they're just laws that you have to follow.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's state. Everything that's in our archives, everything that's in our vault, we have a retention schedule from the state, from the Secretary of State's office, that we have to follow. For example, I have to keep license A for 3 years, or contracts for 7 years, or vital records forever, city ordinances forever, whatever it might be. There's different years for different records, and we have an index of all that, so we can make sure that we're doing the right things and following the law. So technology has helped, to answer your question. It's helped tremendously. I mean, on the website, for example, you can now order a vital record, you can order a birth record online, which is a tremendous help for the customer and for us, quite frankly. So you just go on the city's website, click the link, and you can order it online, and it gets processed very quickly.
So they don't even have to come into the office.
They don't even have to come into the office, right? Exactly.
What's the biggest things that typically that the staff has to deal with on a regular basis? I guess it's the vital records that you have to deal with most, I would assume.
Yeah, a lot of this stuff is running. A typical visit to the city clerk's office is going to take you about 5 minutes. If you need your birth record, a marriage record, whatever it might be, as long as you have the information, we're going to find it for you very quickly. And even if you don't have I don't remember my grandfather's date of birth or date of death or whatever, we have ways of finding it out for you. As long as they were born or married or passed away in the city, we'll find it for you. It might take us a few more minutes, but it doesn't take us hours. I think some people have the perception that, if I go to City Hall for my birth record, I'm going to be there all day. It's not how it works. We have a very good system. We have great staff. But I think the problems that people have sometimes is when birth records have to be amended, or when marriage licenses have to be amended, things like that. And that happens when people don't use their right names. You know, your name is James Marshall, for example, right? So, but if you have, years ago, it didn't matter. You could just tell the RMV, for example, that, oh, my name's Jim. And you can have Jim on all kinds of legal documents. Nowadays, because of things after 9/11, everything has to be your proper name.
Oh, okay.
So if you've used Jim, or maybe you've used your middle name, for example.
Yeah.
So that happens. And now you want your license to say something, but now the Registry of Motor Vehicles is making your birth certificate and your license match. So that's a big problem for people. People are now coming in, getting things amended.
I didn't even think of that.
That's really the kind of the complicated things that people get frustrated with, because it's not something, we can't change it in the office easy. It's called an amendment. It's a process. It has to go through a process.
And it's funny because I was thinking of Hannah, just when she got married, she had to change her name. And she said that was a process just to do that. And I wasn't, but from what you're saying, it's...
Yeah, that's actually probably
the easiest
thing, because when you get married, you can change your name. And on the marriage license, I always tell people after we marry people, and that's another thing we do. Actually,
I was going to say, we got to touch on that.
We marry a lot of people. So when somebody comes into our office and they get married, we always tell them, listen, if one of the parties is changing their last name, they need to make sure that they go to Social Security with the marriage license. And the same thing when they do their driver's license, when they renew that, they need to see the marriage license as well. So that's a big reason why people come into our office, because when they're doing other things, they need the documents that we have. And marriage licenses and birth certificates.
Birth certificates are, birth certificates are, they get lost all the time,
Yeah. There was a gentleman in our office, and he was getting his birth certificate for him and his kids. They were going away because they needed passports.
Yeah.
And I said, weren't you just in here a few months ago? He says, yep. And he says, and I lost them. I lost all of them. So we had to come back in for him again.
Well, it's funny, totally aside, you think of the, for storm preparations and stuff like that, people tell you to keep those vital records in a safe place, handy, because...
Ziploc bag, yeah, exactly.
So when somebody goes in needing a record, but they don't have anything to show, that's got to be hard.
That can be difficult. That's another thing that can be difficult as well. In the state of Massachusetts, some birth records, some vital records are restricted. So in other words, if the record is restricted, then the only people that can have access to that record legally are the people on that record. For example, my birth record, mine isn't restricted, but if it were restricted, then the only people that could get it are my parents, who are both on the record, and me. But what if my parents have both passed away? And what if I'm in Wyoming or something?
Right.
You need to show ID, you need to show picture ID. So that's one thing where our online option helps, because you can upload your ID. But a lot of times, grandparents who are helping out their kids or something, they'll come in, oh, what do you mean I can't get my grandson's record? It might be restricted. And we kind of help people. We work around those things.
Is that something you, for lack of a better word, declare when you get the original thing done?
What do you mean?
That it's restricted?
No, the state restricts the record because usually if a child is born out of wedlock, for example, it might be an ancient law, but that's the way the law is still in the books. If you're born out of wedlock, your record is automatically restricted.
Wow.
And that's what becomes, and a lot of people don't even realize
No,
that.
I'm just going to say, I've never heard of that before.
No, I never did either until I became city clerk. Had no idea. In some states, every birth record is restricted.
Wow.
And for example, in Rhode Island, every birth record is restricted.
So when you're looking at keeping these records, and I'm again going to generalize now, every state is different.
Yes.
So if you're living in Wyoming and you're trying to get something, it's not the same as...
Exactly.
Which makes it kind of confusing too.
Yeah, it does, especially if you're coming from, when I lived in Rhode Island, it wasn't like this or something like that,
A couple other things that, we're halfway through and we're flying through, but again, you guys deal with so much stuff. The one thing, vehicles.
Public vehicle licenses?
Yeah,
we do that. We license taxi cabs, we license taxi drivers, livery owners and operators, livery drivers, And we've changed some things with that as well. Again, as you noted, I'm also the clerk of the council, so I get to work with them very well, and we've actually upgraded the ordinance a little bit, I think, to increase public safety in that area.
I was going to say, because you deal with, when you look at a council meeting, appointments and briefings, there's always those livery license. And for people who don't know, what's the difference between a livery license and some of the other things?
It's a good question, because a livery license is basically, we think of livery as like limousine service
Correct.
or something, but really, if a livery operator will often say, oh, you want to go to Boston Airport? Okay, that's a livery. When you make an appointment to pick me up from point A to bring me to point B, that's a livery operator. Whereas a taxi driver, you see them all around. They're just waiting for people to come in. That's
Right.
not appointment schedule. That's not an appointment, right? So that's pretty much the difference. One is called Class A, one is called Class B. But they're both regulated by the City Council and approved by the City Council, but their applications always start in the City Clerk's office.
I was going to say, though, there's a lot of those.
Yeah, there are. Yeah, it's a booming business. It's fun. There's a lot of them in business, and yet even with the competition of Uber and Lyft and things, people are still in the taxi cab business, and they're still in the livery license business. So people are still coming in, getting approved, and they're making a go of it.
And do you have to do them every year or a couple of years?
Every year. Yep, every year. Yep, they get licensed every year. They're renewed every year, and the big part of that is because we want to make sure that their vehicles are properly registered and insured.
So you guys check on that too?
Oh yeah, they have to come in with their insurance papers and everything like that. Yeah, their registration.
And the cab company's got to do that too?
Cab companies
Wow.
as well, and we run queries on everyone who's a driver and an
Wow.
owner. Because think about it, we've always done this, and we've increased the security in this. And the council has actually passed actual ordinances, because in the ordinance it was originally, and it still says it, that the clerk shall determine whether or not someone is I forget the term, but basically an honorable enough person to be a livery driver or a taxi cab driver. But that's subjective.
Right.
I might think you're a jerk for jaywalking, so we've actually we've put some language in the ordinance for certain crimes that you can't get a license for so many years or ever in some cases.
Wow,
so that's been a big thing. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, if you've ever been convicted of, say, murder, you're never going to be a
You're never
taxi
gonna get
driver in the city of New Bedford.
Forget
right?
the livery
Exactly.
license.
And rightfully so.
Yeah.
Because you're one-on-one with people. And
Right.
I remember thinking that when as you know, my son has autism, and when he used to go to school at Carney Academy, I used to bring him to school every day. And one thing I was struck with was that kids were getting out of taxi cabs because their parents probably couldn't bring them to school because they had to go to work or
Right.
something. So this young kid who's in elementary school, 5, 6, 7 years old, is getting out of a cab with a total stranger driving into school because the family had no other choice. And I just always stuck with me when I became the city clerk. I was like, we got to make sure those cab drivers are reasonably responsible
citizens,
people. Yeah, exactly. Not saying that they don't have histories, but at least that they're not.
No, it's good to know, and I don't
criminals,
think people realize that your office has that responsibility, which is interesting. I go in all the time, as you know, to do the dog license, which is a huge part of your job too.
It is, yeah.
And I've seen people in there with 5 dog licenses at times,
It's probably the most controversial too, as far as the public will go. Dogs. It's funny you say that because we're getting ready to renew dog licenses now as well. So this month we'll be sending out the renewal notices for people to come in. But a lot of people will come in for their dog license. Well, why do I have to license my dog? When I lived in Acushnet, I didn't have to license my dog.
I find that hard to believe,
The answer
though.
is, of course you did, because it's state law. Yeah, it's state law to license your dog, and they do that to make sure the dogs are up on their rabies vaccinations. So, we send them out as a courtesy to people, letting them know that, hey, your dog's license is about to expire on December 31st, and if you don't come in, we give a 30-day grace period, if you will. State law requires us to fine people after a certain point in time if they don't come in right away. So after February 1st, we have to fine people $25 in addition to the license.
Yeah.
That's what people get most upset with us a little bit. But we try to work with people. We're not out to stick it to anybody.
I think it's safe. It makes sense.
We need to be fair. Exactly.
I was going to say, I can't remember a time when, even growing up wherever I lived, the dogs were never licensed. It was just something that you had to do.
Right.
But there's a lot of dogs in the city.
There are. Yeah, we license right around 7,000 every year, 7,000 dogs, and that's probably, honestly, maybe a third of the amount of dogs that are in the city.
You think, really?
Yeah, I think so. If you talk to Manny Macy on animal control, he'd probably say the same thing, and he would obviously know better than me. But unfortunately, a lot of people just push their luck. Eventually, everybody gets caught because eventually your dog is going to run away, or animal control is going to find you, and their fines are hefty.
Right.
So you're better off paying the $10, getting your dog licensed, and not having to worry about the headache afterward.
You guys handle, and it's funny because I didn't even know this when I was looking at the website the other day for the show, Raffles, bazaars.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
What is that?
It's again, I think it's one of those ancient things on the state law books.
I mean, in this city,
yeah,
raffles and bazaars are like a rite of passage for crying out loud.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, look, not everybody probably comes in and does what they should, but we do. People have to give the annual reports on file, so we have all that stuff in our records as well. Yeah, it's one of those rare, obscure things that nobody ever thinks about.
So, it's just crazy, the stuff. I have to talk, we got a couple minutes left, but I want to talk about, I mean, you mentioned weddings, marriages. I mean, I've seen you dressed up, suit and tie, and it's got to be an fun and interesting part of your job. I don't know, who can do it in your office? Is it just you?
So no, myself and the assistant city clerk by law can marry people in City Hall. And I think she would agree. I think Stephanie would say the same thing. We both enjoy it. You meet a lot of people, and it's just, you get to kind of become a part of their life for a few minutes, People will can you take a picture with us after the ceremony? And it's just a nice thing. It's always a nice thing when you can be a part of something as amazing as a marriage, So it's certainly one of my favorite parts of the job.
How much time in advance do they need to give you?
So in the state of Massachusetts, the law is if you want to come in and get married anywhere, you have to apply for a marriage license, and then there's a 3-day waiting period. And this is what a lot of people don't know, is that you can't just come in and get married.
Right.
You have to apply for your license, then there's a 3-day waiting period by state law. You can get that waived, but you have to go to court, and sometimes you sit in court all day long. And that, I think they charge like $200 for a waiver. So unless it's a real emergency, it's really not worth it. So apply for your license.
And anybody has to get a marriage license, no matter whether they're going to you or any place.
Correct, exactly. No matter where you get married with, it's your priest, your pastor, a friend who's a one-day solemnizer or something. Everybody needs a marriage license to be a marriage recognized by the law. So they come in, that same license, you have to wait 3 days to use it, but it also expires in 60 days. So, if you want to get married next July, you can't apply yet. You want to wait within 60 days. So we usually tell people, look, come in a few weeks before you're going to get married. That way, if something happens, you're not rushing around trying to get a date. So they come in if they want to get married with us, which we do about 100 to 150 weddings a year.
Wow.
Yeah, I probably marry more people than any other
I was going to say, I've seen a lot of, just in my travels in and out of City Hall, there are a lot of weddings going on.
There's a lot of weddings, yeah. Yep.
Are they, now where do you usually have them?
We hold most wedding ceremonies we'll do in the Ashley room, which is, is a really nice room. There's a fireplace in there. It's a beautiful room. Sometimes I'll do them in the city council chamber.
Oh, that's
and sometimes we'll do them outside. If people say sometime, a day like today, it's a beautiful day, hey, can we go outside? We go outside under the tree that's outside my office there. It's a nice spot. The only thing we're doing outside, we did a lot of that during COVID years, obviously. We did it outside quite a bit. The only thing is sometimes when, you're downtown, so people will be driving by, and of course they feel the need sometimes, congratulations!
Yeah, a lot of beeping going on and stuff like that.
A lot of beeping and interrupting the service, but it is a nice part of the job. It is nice to do the weddings.
I didn't realize you did that many, though.
We do a lot of weddings, between Stephanie and I. We do a lot.
Is that part of the position, or do you have to do something to get that?
I don't think you're required to do it, but it is part of it. Yeah, when you become a city clerk, you can become a JP pretty quickly through the governor's council. As you know, becoming a justice of the peace is usually a waiting game. You have to wait for someone to get off the list.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
But when you're a clerk or an assistant clerk, they approve you automatically.
You touched on COVID. I'm curious. Pre-COVID, post-COVID, and we've been out of it a couple of years, maybe not out of it, but it's changed. Have things changed in the office? Did you learn anything that you said, this works, or what have you, that you feel is better now, or is it worse?
It's funny. We didn't change too much, actually. The only thing I think that we were thinking about doing even pre-COVID is, how everybody now has the glass partitions or something like that. We were thinking about putting one up on our counter anyway. Just, look, when you're at a counter and people are speaking or whatever, it might just be nice to have like some kind of divider there anyway. So we were thinking about doing that anyway, and then when COVID came along, we had to do that.
Right.
So that was one thing that was nice. But really, no, we haven't changed too much. We've learned, I think we got very, maybe we increased some efficiencies, but off the top of my head right now, I can't think of anything.
I thought you guys did
specific,
more
but-
electronically. Like you said, you can do a lot of this stuff just on the
Online.
website. Yeah, online.
I mean, that was always our goal to do that. We finally found a company to work with to do that for us. It's always about finding the right partner with those things. So, yeah, I mean, that's certainly happened since COVID. But that's about it, really. Yeah, I mean, our efficiencies have probably increased.
Do you
since
see
COVID.
people using online to do stuff,
Yeah.
or are they still coming in? Because again, when I think of your office, it's probably, and I hate to generalize, but one of the most personable offices because people are there.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, do you see people just going online and not even?
The vast majority of people still come in for their records.
Yeah.
Absolutely, 100%. Since we've been doing the online thing, what we've done too is we've been working with St. Luke's Hospital. We've given them these flyers that they're now handing out in family packets where it has the QR code and they can scan it and it'll automatically it'll take them to the website to request their child's birth record.
Okay.
So that's helping a lot. We've seen an increase with online requests since then, and the school department is doing the same thing. When families come in to register their children for school, they're also handing them those flyers. So we've seen an increase in the online requesting through those methods, which is nice. I think it's helpful for the families and it's helpful for us. And a lot of people, the thing about birth records is a lot of people will come in and say, geez, my son was born a year ago and I still haven't gotten my birth record from you guys. You guys haven't sent it to me. We don't automatically send you a birth record. You have to request it either in person or online.
Yep.
And of course it costs, it's a $20 fee, so you have to come in and get it.
It's interesting though
But some
that they
people
wouldn't think
assume-
about that when it happens, because like a marriage certificate is totally different. You have to get it before you
Yes.
can even do it.
Yeah.
Kind of interesting, the
Yeah.
thought process there, but
And
you
not
got to do
everybody
it.
Yeah, not everybody realizes it. I had a couple recently, actually. A priest called me and he said, Dennis, I have a couple that they didn't realize they needed a marriage license. And they're getting married tomorrow, which is a Saturday. And I said, that's not going to be illegal. People need a marriage license. Not
Right.
everybody realizes it, yeah.
Got a minute left. I wanted to give you a chance to plug for people who have questions and what have
Sure.
you. Where can they get in touch with you and the staff? Because again, the staff, who I know, great people that
Yeah,
work for you.
absolutely.
So if they have questions,
Definitely, yeah. If you have questions about anything in city government or in our office specifically, you can certainly call 508-979-1450. Our emails are on the city's website, or you can call City Hall and just put the right number in when it prompts you for the city clerk's office. But our staff is awesome. We have myself, Stephanie Mackelmitter is our assistant clerk, and then we have 5 staff as well. So there's always someone there ready and willing to
I knew
answer
you said you're
questions.
fully staffed.
We are,
which
yes,
is good.
we are fully staffed. Yeah, we have, again, our staff is fantastic, always friendly, always willing to go above and beyond. So our success is because of them, for sure.
Good seeing you. Thanks
Good
for
seeing
coming
you.
in.
All right.
All right, that's
Thanks
going to
for
do
having
it
me.
for this edition of City Hall Insider. I'm Jim Marshall of the New Bedford Cable Network. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Last week, Brandon met a girl on a dating app. One day after work, he finally found the courage to ask her out. No answer. He started to panic. Was he being too pushy? Maybe it was too
Hey, sorry I didn't respond. I was driving. I would love to go on a date. How does tonight sound?
Brandon tried to play it cool, but inside he knew. A girl so smart, so responsible. She must be a keeper.
You're home before sunrise, on top of the house, the kids, and our future. The smell of your cooking is our alarm clock. My Shiro's day is never done. So let's start saving a little more now so we can feel prepared for retirement. A free 3-minute online chat can give us the personalized tips we need so we can live our lives to the fullest. Visit aceyourretirement.org